Welcome to another interesting episode of Learn by Choice. We are going to discuss about the topic that concerns not only India but countries all around the world. We will be talking about trade deficits, what they are and how they happen and why they matter. So let us get started. What causes trade deficit and how it is calculated? In simple terms, trade deficit occurs to a country when that country imports more stuff than it exports to the other countries over a certain period of time. So it is like spending more money than you earn in a month. It's not just a matter of looking at what you bought and sold. It's a bit more complicated than that. Economists consider various categories for calculating like goods, services and the overall balance. Let us take the example of US. To figure out the trade deficit of US, the country subtracts the value of the goods they export from the value of the goods they import. Now some of us may think that things like tariffs, which are basically taxes on imports, cause trade deficit. But most economists don't quite agree with that. These trade deficits happen when a country borrows more money from the other country than it lends to them. Let us think it as borrowing the money to buy things you cannot really afford. Trade barriers like those tariffs might reduce imports in certain industries, but this also makes the country's currency more valuable, which in turn makes the imports cheaper and ultimately balance the things out. In the past, big purchases of foreign bonds and fiddling around the currency values were the main reason behind trade imbalances. Nowadays, currency manipulation is less of an issue, but many still believe that this may happen again. Trade deficits are not necessarily a bad thing. They can actually have good benefits also, but when they become too big, it really causes a problem. So the key to fix the trade deficit lies more in financial policies, not on trade barriers like tariffs. Research have shown that trade imbalances are caused by various factors like how much the government spends, what the government does to the currency market, and the speed at which the economy is growing, and how people are earning, and how old the population is. There are a lot of benefits of trade deficits. Don't think that trade deficits are bad. They can actually bring some good stuff. For instance, they can boost the consumption. Many people get to buy and enjoy more things. Trade deficits also let countries with high living standards enjoy more than what they produce. So it's like having really a generous friend who keeps sharing his goodies with you. Trade deficits can attract foreign investments, which is like saying, we have got some wonderful opportunities in the country, you should come and invest in our country. Globalization is also having a huge impact on trade deficit. Let us talk about globalization for a moment. As the world becomes more interconnected, countries engage in more international trade, which can also lead to increased trade deficits. So it has the power to boost exports, which can help the balance things out. Trade deficits and jobs are interconnected. Trade deficits can be a bit more double-edged sword when it comes to jobs and industries. On the one hand, trade deficit causes job losses in certain sectors which cannot compete. Let us take a quick look at the history. Countries like United States and some East Asian nations have faced with significant trade deficits over years. But there are few countries on the other side of the coin, which are countries with trade surpluses. In 2022, China and Russia had the highest trade surpluses. China's surplus grew by 30% thanks to the increased exports, whereas in the case of Russia, boosted by energy sales, there were also significant surpluses in countries like Saudi Arabia, Norway, Australia and Qatar. India also having a tough trade challenges. In August 2023, India faced a significant economic challenge. The goods of the country exports were on a 7-month decline, whereas services exports unexpectedly dropped. So the goods trade deficit reached a 10-month high. However, the India is taking a lot of initiatives to bridge the trade deficit. The Indian government is proactive in addressing these trade imbalances. There are certain initiatives like Foreign Trade Policy 2023, Merchandise Exports from India scheme, and Services Exports from India scheme are all designed to boost the exports and make the business smoother. The game-changing PLI scheme, PLI that is really shaking the things up, the production-linked incentive scheme, this policy is a game changer and it's all about, PLI is all about supercharging domestic manufacturing and cutting down on excessive imports. Tackling the gold import is one of the important aspect of arresting the trade deficit. Gold imports has been a big contributor to India's trade deficit. To tackle this, the government has introduced schemes like gold monetization scheme and gold sovereign bond scheme and increasing the import duties on gold and platinum. These measures aim to reduce the gold imports and promote domestic savings, especially among the Indian women. So there are also additional measures taken by the government to promote import substitutions. Encouraging the domestic production of goods that are currently imported can help to reduce the trade deficits. India tries to achieve this by providing incentives for domestic manufacturers. We hope you found this episode on trade deficits informative. Please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like and share this episode with your friends. Thank you for watching Learn by Choice.